basketball junkies like myself and watch the game from a different lens. The man I brought on is maybe one of the top basketball minds in Illinois. I know that he runs the 131 better than majority of the world, and he loves to diamond press. When I was at Maine East briefly, we had to play this man, and our 2-1-2 did not work against his 131. So Coach Will Ray from Northridge Prep, former college coach. He's been at Northridge now since 2004. And I mean, I don't even know what to say when it comes to hoops. If I want to build my IQ, this is the man. A lot of people are about relationships or about IQ, and Coach Ray is about both. And that's what's made him special and kept him there for 21 years. Coach Ray, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Well, my pleasure, Aaron. It's a real honor. What you're doing with this podcast is wonderful. I always am inspired when I see individuals such as yourself and others around the country that are trying to make the game better by sharing information with coaches. And I know it takes a lot of time and effort on your part to put this together. It's not, people think you're just, making a couple calls and getting a list of people to be on your podcast, but there's a lot of work behind the scenes and preparation, what have you. So I do appreciate it because in some respects, the game's never been better. And I think a lot of it is because of individuals like yourself doing what you're doing. So thank you.
So I keep telling these young kids and these young coaches, I keep getting, how do you get this person on? How do you get this person on? And the magic formula is I ask. Basketball is the number one vehicle to building relationships. Um, obviously you're going to have some ego guys and whatnot, but the majority of us are junkies and just love to do this and love to talk hoops. Um, so I just tell everyone, literally, I asked Brian Lukens connected us. I
You did.
asked, he said yes. That's all you got to do, children.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's that simple, really, right? When you get basketball people together, we have one common denominator is, we see the value of what we do in coaching in terms of it impacting lives, right? And so we're
100%.
always only too eager to share and talk with others about what we love.
So, coach, that's the key. So a lot of these younger guys don't wanna like learn from guys like you, especially the kids. And I bring up this example. I'm gonna say a name that you're gonna be like, oh, he was awesome. Amari Sawyer.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
Oh yeah, right. So I
Who would disagree with that?
I was teaching PE at King last year. I got there in like November, so the beginning of the basketball season. And I find out Amari Sawyer does security at the school.
Oh, how
And
about
then
that?
I find out Marlo Finner does security at the school. My third period or second period was my first off period. Coach, you know where I went.
I can only imagine. You beelined right there.
Right there,
Ah,
right? So
yeah,
then
of
I'm
course.
talking to the kids
Yeah.
and I'm like, have you guys sat down with those two men and just talked about basketball? No, I mean, I heard they were okay players. I said, okay players, what? Right? And that's something that I kind of wanted to do with this pod and my social media stuff is just give these kids more pride, right? Let them learn the
Sure.
history. None of them are dogs like used to be running around these courts. But I have a major question. You were born in Cuba. When did you come here?
Yeah, I was born in Cuba, and if you know a little bit of history of the Cuban Revolution took place in 1959 when Castro took control of the country,
Mhm.
and so he didn't announce right away that he was a Marxist socialist until he had been in power for a year and a half, and so in 1961, I was let's see, I was 8 years old, and my parents, actually, my dad put my mom and me on a plane to the United States with the hope of, that things will, get better over the next few months and bring us back. Well, we've never been back since. And yeah, and so my dad and other members of my family followed a few months later, and we sought political asylum here in the United States. The United States was granting Cuban citizens political asylum because of the situation was so dire. And yeah, so we came to Miami, Florida, then wound up in Chicago because my mother's sister had been educated in the United States and lived here. And so eventually we became U.S. citizens, and um, my parents lived in Chicago until they passed in 2015, about 6 months apart from each other. My dad was 92 and my mom was 90.
God bless
And
them.
so yeah, so we came in 61 and never been back to Cuba. I would like to at some point, maybe, but just to see where it was that I was born and where I grew up, and at least grew up through my first 8 or 9 years of life. So yeah, that's a little bit of my background.
My wife studied there. She's a Spanish teacher
Oh
at
wow,
at Homewood Flossmoor. And yeah, she makes the drive from Glenview, don't ask. And
boy,
I
that's
well,
I know what she's doing. She's listening to your podcast.
yeah, I wish. Oh God, from your mouth to God's ears. So, um, but she studied in Havana,
How about
and
that?
she's she hasn't been back, but she always says to me that I wouldn't like it because there's weird bugs that will bite you, and the sting won't go away for like a week or two.
Well, tropical climate, right? So you can imagine how big those cockroaches are, right?
Like, ugh, ugh.
Yeah. Actually, my that's Spanish is my first language. That's what we spoke at home. So
Okay.
actually, I learned English here in the United
I
States.
never knew any of this when I was researching you. I'm like, I didn't know this that you were from Cuba. I
Yeah.
thought you were just, some white American Chicago guy. You know what I
Well,
mean? I didn't know any of this.
yeah.
So how'd you end up at Gordon Tech?
Well, great question. I actually, while I was at undergrad school, I met Norm Goodman, who was the coach at Leiden High School, and
Okay.
he was the one that really first put the idea of coaching in my mind. I was actually at Triton College taking a class in coaching, of all things.
Okay.
And one of the projects for the class was you had to go watch a high school practice and then write up a report on it,
Yeah.
and then watch a high school game and scout it as if you were scouting an opponent, and write up a scouting report and turn it into the class. Well, heck, I didn't know what to do, so Leiden was pretty good in those days. So I just cold called Norm Goodman, and I asked him if I'd come over to practice. And that started a relationship and a friendship that lasted until Norm passed away a few years back. And he really kind of shepherded me through
Yeah.
coaching and instilled that, he's the one who first said to me, "Hey, you ever thought about being a coach?" And I had never thought about it. In fact, my dad, this whole idea of coaching as a professional career was so foreign to my dad, who was a businessman. And he said, "You mean you get paid for doing what?" And I said, "Yeah, people actually pay you for this." And so anyway, I couldn't get on at Leiden High School. I was coaching in grade school at the time, and Norm said, "Well, why don't you look at some other possibilities?" And I was coaching a team at Our Lady of Victory School. How's that for a name for a school, right, in Chicago? And we were playing in a Gordon Tech tournament, and
Okay.
my great friend Bob Ibca was running the tournament.
Mhm.
Watched our team play, stopped me after the game, and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about coaching in high school?" And I said, "Well, in fact, I have," and that led to developing a relationship with Bob and with Gordon Tech that was absolutely pivotal. Being part of the Gordon Tech basketball family, coaching family, and players family is just was an incredible opportunity, Aaron. And I mean, to this day, we still get together. We try to get together every August,
I love that
former
stuff.
players and former coaches. And Coach Osipka is kind of
I love
the hub. But that this goes back to Dick Versace, Tony Baroni, um, Ed Janka,
preach,
Bobble,
preach.
and then of course the players, Tommy Klein,
Yeah.
TK, and it's just an incredible basketball family that has not only impacted my coaching career and my life. Really, Bob Osipka remains probably my closest friend. He's my son's godfather, and he spent 25 years in the NBA, and it was there's rarely a day goes by that I don't think back to something Norm Goodman taught me or something I learned from Bob Osipka and the Gordon Tech basketball family. So I've been very blessed.
Again, basketball is a vehicle to lifelong relationships.
Absolutely.
I
There's no
love
question about it. I mean, we just had earlier in September, there was a memorial service for Norm Goodman. All the Leiden basketball players and former coaches got together at Moretti's out in Rosemont
Mhm.
because the IBCA is putting up a plaque memorializing Norm Goodman's Leiden teams when they won 108 straight regular season games. So Jerry Wainwright, another great friend, came
There
in
he
from
goes.
North Carolina, and we had a chance to spend time together. And they asked us to share a few words about Norm, along with Glenn Grunwald, Tom Dorr, Gary Wolf. I mean, it was just
Look at
on the
these
board.
names.
Just yeah, it
I
was just
love
an
it.
incredible event. You can't believe how well attended this event was, and all because of Norm Goodman. Some of these players have been friends since they were freshmen in high school, and now they're grown men in their 50s and 60s, for goodness sake. So, no, basketball is a great vehicle. I remember hearing John
Awesome.
Thompson say that as many barriers as people might want to put up, basketball breaks down more barriers than anybody can ever put up, and it transcends cultures, transcends race, transcends religious beliefs, ethnic backgrounds. It doesn't matter. Socioeconomic barriers. Basketball is one of the
100%.
great unifiers ever. So I'm happy that I chose this profession and that the right men led me in this way.
So let's see, I started coaching basketball in 2006, and about a month ago, I had a coming to Jesus moment. Okay.
Okay,
And I'd like to share with you because you're a basketball guy.
please do.
For all these years, I've coached, AAU, I've coached high school, I've coached middle school. Um, and I was at Chicago Bulls practice about a month ago with Jason Tucker from
Yeah,
Charlotte.
I know Jason. Good man.
And he's one of my closest friends. And I was sitting there and the Bulls were scrimmaging. They were terrible. So, whatever, these guys are watching. And I start talking. And Tucker and these other guys are like, shh. And I didn't get mad. It was a coming to Jesus moment. I came to the realization that what I love about hoops is culture and relationships and not so much the X's and O's. Um, it's cool to win. We all like to shake hands a winner,
Sure,
but how you just talked about, all the like all those names you dropped, right? And how every August you still meet with your friends and like that's more exciting to me than anything.
yeah.
And it took me all these years, almost 20 years to come to the realization why I love this game. And it's like here, I haven't spoken to you or seen you in probably ten years. And
Mhm.
pick up right where we, left off. And that's what's so great about this game. But I just had that coming to Jesus moment where I'm like multiple people have asked me if I wanted to help out. And I'm like, I'd rather just, go to games with my son, watch, talk to guys like you.
Mhm.
I don't know. Weird.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's that weird at all, Aaron. I think I can tell you my trajectory in this profession now. This is my 50th season coaching, believe it or not.
Awesome.
Somebody told me when are you going to retire? I said, retire. I'm just getting started, man. I'm
That's
just,
right, baby.
I'm at the starters blocks here. There's a lot to learn yet, a lot to do. But um, I think anyone, if you're going to stay in this profession or affiliated or associated with the game in any meaningful way, I think you ultimately come to that realization, right?
Hmm.
Because whatever reason one has for getting into the profession at the beginning, whether it's you played and had a lot of success as a player, or a coach somewhere along the line may have impacted you in such a profound way that you wanted to do the same for whatever the reason that got
Yep.
you into the coaching. I think that first few years, 5 to 10 years, you're trying to learn as much about the game as you can. How do I
Absolutely
teach it
true.
better? What are the best approaches on offense, defense, drills, practice, player development? Go right down the line. But if you're going to really sustain any kind of excellence in this profession at its deepest level, you have to have an overarching purpose that's greater than winning and losing. Because no matter how much you win, it's not going to be enough, right? At the end of the day, don't we see that all the time with the it's always amazes me. And I use this example with our players. How many times you see NBA players who have accomplished just about everything that can be accomplished on an individual basis, right? All-star game appearances, scoring titles. I mean, we saw it with Michael Jordan here in Chicago, right? At the end of the day, some guys are willing to take less pay. They're willing to be traded at the end of their careers so they can be part of a championship.
That's
Why?
right.
Because they want to win a championship? Well, partially. But I think the camaraderie and the relationships that develop when you're in a championship journey, those things last a lifetime, a lot
Yeah.
longer than any championship rings or banners or trophies will ever last, right? And I tell people that when I walk down the halls here at Northridge that, we've had our share of success, modest, but we've had our share of success. And people say, what do you think about when you see all these banners? Well, I don't think of, yeah, we won that game or that. I can't even remember the scores half the time. But what I do think of is the
Yeah.
players that were part of those experiences, right? And so if anything's going to drive at least my career, and I think most coaches' careers, including now what you've just shared, it's realizing that these experiences transcend the scoreboard,
Yeah.
right? At the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, so Danny Wolf for the Nets, he went through the Coach London experience.
Yeah.
And my son and I, we went to Brooklyn for the draft this year. His parents invited us. And I think that was kind of like my first like inkling that I'm not really into the X's and O's. Now, people out there, don't get this shit messed up. I will still outcoach you. Don't get this. I am a savant when it comes to this game. But just being there with, being there with Danny, other guys in the business that helped Danny out, like that's stuff that excites me. If I was a Division I college assistant, the recruiting, the keeping the kids, keeping a pulse on the kids, making sure they're not doing stupid things. I don't know. I think that that's just as important, if not most important, right? Especially with NIL now. But I just
Yeah,
wanted
and I mean, I think the
to
the thing
X's and
too.
O's again.
Yeah,
So,
I think the other thing, and I mean, I always tell coaches when I have a chance and somebody asks, I'll say, look, we should never apologize for trying to win, right? At the end of the day, we put a
oh,
lot of time and energy and effort in,
100%.
right? Don't apologize for trying to win. And as a coach, don't apologize for trying to be professionally excellent or
Yep,
competent. In fact, it's that professional excellence that helps you have credibility as a coach, right? I
yep,
mean, the sad part about our profession, Aaron, is that nobody really cares what the guy that goes 0 and 20 every year has to say about anything. And he might have more valuable things to say than the rest of us, but
right.
we have a tendency um, to associate professional excellence with value or knowledge, right? So I tell coaches, look, become as professionally excellent as possible. Learn the game. Like you said, be a coaching savant. But one thing it's going to do, besides making you good on the court and maybe help your teams be better, it's going to gain the respect of the players that you're coaching and the
Absolutely.
people that are surrounding your program. And it's going to give greater weight and value to what you have to say. Now you can teach those loftier, more important lifelong lessons when people say, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about, right? I mean, it
Do
happened with
you
John Wooden.
remember, do you remember this name? Jim Block?
Oh, sure. I never got to know him well personally. I know of
But
him, highly respected athletic director at
yes.
New Trier.
So many, 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 many moons ago, I'm going to name drop another guy you know well. I'm sitting at a PE conference with Pat Woods. Okay. So I'm not even sure if I had children yet. So I'm sitting there and it was all varsity coaches in this room. And here's this man, Jim Block. I'm in my 20s and give a shit, right? I was just there for the hours. So for some reason, I think maybe Jesus flew down on my shoulder and was like, "Hey, I think you should pay attention." So I tuned in. And this man said something so powerful that you kind of just touched on. So all varsity coaches, all sports in this room, all the names. And he says, I want to go around the room and I want each of you to give me one adjective of your favorite coach of all time that you've had. Go around the room, caring, loving, empathy, everything you could think of. Coach, you know what word no one mentioned?
Not
Win. Win.
win,
Nobody remembers that
right?
from your favorite coach. No one remembered games or losing or winning, right? Relationships. And when Jim talked about that, it absolutely blew my mind. And then he talked about something that not many people do, but you do. And you probably don't realize this. So every kid comes to school with two backpacks, their school backpack and their personal backpack. Personal backpack, we don't really see, right? Personal backpack has divorce, money issues, you name it, parents fighting. And you've always done a good job building that relationship where you check that second backpack. That's
Absolutely.
my MO now. I mean, since Jim Black said that to me 20 years ago, right? But um, it's very hard to find great teachers and coaches that do that.
Yeah.
And
That's profound, and that's true. I
it's
mean, at the
true.
end of the day, yeah,
And you do it. I mean, I'm telling you, you do it. Um,
we
and I
certainly try,
knew
that's
you
for
did
sure.
it. I'm going to tell you how I know you did it. You're going to have to remember the name though. You had a kid that would freaking commute from by Midway. What was his name?
Jesus Zermeno.
Boom. Point guard.
Yes.
He, th that's it. That's
Yeah.
all I had to know. That's
Yeah.
it. He commuted from Midway to Niles.
Yeah. That's a great story with Jesus. He single mother,
Yep.
raised three children, two boys and a girl. And Jesus played for us here for 4 years, was an excellent student, went to the University of Illinois, graduated with a degree in chemical engineering, and is just done exceptionally. We're just married a number of years, just had his first child. And he actually coached our freshman team for a couple of years here. Now that he's got a child, he just doesn't have the time, but just an incredible story. And he took two buses and two trains every
Yep.
day for 4 years because he never really drove until a little bit towards the senior year. But the interesting thing, and I use this story a lot with our current players, he was never late for school, never missed school. And I mean, I never is a strong word. I'll be willing to bet that he never missed and that was never late. Was always here on time
I'm
for
not
school.
shocked. He was a classy kid.
Yeah, great kid. But yeah, he's a good example of a guy that he got the opportunity and made the best of it. And no, that's a great story about having the two backpacks. And a lot of people will ask me, Aaron, when I left college coaching in 2004, it spent 19 years coaching D1 and what have you. And I left. Just our family was ready to settle down. The
I
college
bet.
game
Yes.
is just so volatile, and I got out before it got really crazy with the transfer portal, NIL, and so forth. But it was getting crazy then. And a lot of people say, "Well, why did you take a job at a place like Northridge? It's a small school. We have 230 boys in the high school, 9 through 12, 125 boys in the middle school, grade 6 through 8." And I thought about that a lot because I really wanted to give a good answer. And at the end of the day, is going back to what we've been talking about, that what is your reason for coaching? You know, people like to say today, what is your why? What is your why? Okay. So I came to the realization in the last 4 or 5 years as a college coach that I kind of had my ladder up against the wrong building in many respects. I got into coaching because I wanted to work with young guys and help them and be a person of impact like some men had impacted my life. And I can do that at a school of 230 boys, or I can do that at the highest level of college basketball. Really, it's irrelevant. It's about blooming where you're planted, and it's about having a chance to impact lives. So I mean, and guys like Jesus or Meno are just great stories, and we've had many guys like that here at Northridge because they come here for the right reasons.
Did Mike Leeser play for you?
He sure did,
So,
and his brother Steve did as well.
so I'm going to tell you a Mike Leeser story.
Both had very good careers here, by the way.
I a Mike Leeser story that just happened. So it's like June, end of May. A bunch of my kids that are in college now came back, um, and they are all on a men's league team. And they go, Coach London, let's get dinner after, come out to our game. I'm like, dude, if y'all are gonna turn that ball over, even in the men's league, like I'm not gonna be okay with that. So, anyways, I go out there. It's in Arlington Heights, and the other team, there's this like 6 foot something white shooter, just coach shooting the piss out of the ball, and I'm staring at him, and I'm like, bro, why does this guy look so familiar? So he subs out, and I send my son over and I go, hey, Jonah, he's 7. I said, go ask that dude over there in the blue shirt if his name is Mike Leeser. He goes around, I see him go like this, right? And I go, I still got it. I still got it. He played Illinois old school, like
You did. You did.
2000s, like 11, 12, something
Yeah,
like
that's about
that.
right.
And man,
Yeah,
coach,
Mike was a good player. Mike was a good player for us. He
he still
walked.
has it.
Yeah,
He
oh, he
still
can shoot it.
has it.
Lefty shooter.
Yep.
His brother Steve. Now Mike ended up walking on at the University of Evansville with Marty Simmons,
Okay.
and was there for a couple of years. Then he transferred up to Carthage, where his
Okay.
dad's actually a professor. And then Steve went down and walked on at St. Louis University
Mhm.
for a year, and then he transferred to Carthage as well. And they both finished their careers there. But just two real gym rats, and boy, they were just good players for us here, and on really
Great,
great teams.
great people.
Great people, yeah. And Dad is a wonderful guy, and Mom, they're just a really solid family. Great people.
Coach, coach. I might have had to box and won him. Like he was killing it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? And then so on the other, but listen to the names on the other team that I came to watch. Ryan Cohn from GBN, Connor May from Palatine, his brother, I forgot his brother's name, Alex George Gakis from Prospect, Jack Huber from Libertyville, um, Cole Bonderman from Libertyville, and they still lost.
Well, I know one thing about Mike. Mike Leeser didn't take the ball out of bounds because he was, if he did, he was not sure he's going to get it back. So, but Mike
Smart
can make,
man.
he can make shots. So he could, we've had a string of good shooters here in our program over the past 21 years, and Mike would definitely be right at the top of that list.
So, as a basketball coach, why 1-3? Why do you love the 1-3-1?
Great question. Actually, I really, Aaron, when I was coaching in college, as you know, I mean, you spend as much time outside of recruiting in terms of coaching time, you spend as much time preparing for opponents as you
Yep.
do anything else, right? Especially as an assistant. And I had the opportunity to watch Temple University play a lot on tape. The great John Chaney, right, and Jim Maloney of happy memory. Well, both have now passed away, but Jim Maloney was his assistant for a long time, and both great coaches. And I really became intrigued with the benefit and the value of zone defense. And then in my travels in recruiting, I recruited the North Central Conference in Indiana
Okay.
with coaches like Bill Green at Marion, Bill Harrell at Muncie, Basil Mawby at Kokomo. And I sat in on these guys' practices and watched them play. And these guys were all Well, Bill Green and Basil Maubey were exclusively zone coaches. And Bill Harrell, he would mix it up a little bit between man and zone and what have you. And so over those years in college coaching, I just came to the realization that the zone is really a powerful defensive strategy in basketball, and more so at the high school level, although Temple had great success at the college level with it. So I kind of decided that if I ever came back to high school as a coach, I would become primarily a zone defensive coach. And that's what I've done. So, I mean, we've gotten more, um, I guess we've gotten more, whatever notoriety we've received. It's been because of the 1-3-1, but actually, we've been a multiple zone defensive program for 21 years. We've played the 1-3-1 a lot, the 2-3, the 1-1-3. We've also played some combination zones. As you mentioned earlier, we've done a lot with the press as well, especially the last few years. So it's more, I consider our program to be a zone defensive program rather than just exclusively a 1-3-1 program. But the 1-3-1 just, found that a lot of people had trouble attacking it. Didn't, I wasn't really impressed with what people are doing against it. You basically can, even before you go into the season, you can almost uh, predict that you're going to see 95% two guard front with a 2-1-2 alignment or a 2-3, a little bit of 1-4, a little bit of overload. I mean, you can almost predict without scouting, although we scout a lot. You can predict exactly what people are going to run against it. So to me, it just cuts your preparation time down. And not that the zone is easier to teach than man to man, it just requires less time, right? So it's,
Mhm.
people say, well, the man to man requires, better teaching. I don't think that's true. I think anything that's done well in basketball has to be well taught. And I
Mhm.
think, just putting a 2-3 zone out there that you would see in a mural game at a college or something, that's not going to get it done. So it requires a great amount of teaching, but it doesn't require as much teaching as the man to man does. And so I believe in, probably one of the foundational precepts of our program. We like to say that defense is the foundation of our program, but offensive skills are ultimately going to determine our ultimate success, right? So, in order to develop offensive skills, you need time, right? Because of the use of the ball. You gotta stop, you gotta pivot, you gotta start, you gotta pass, you gotta dribble, you gotta shoot. You gotta do all these things, all these foreign skills with the basketball. On defense, basically got to move your feet and play with a lot of passion. And it just takes less time to teach good defense than it does good offense. So the zone, I felt, gave us more time in practice to really hone in on what I think is going to be the dividing. We like to say as coaches that defense wins championships. And I believe that. At the core, I believe that when you get in those championship moments, that defense is going to be the ultimate divider, because the championship caliber teams are usually pretty darn good offensively, right? But whether or not you win in those championship situations, or at least to get to the championship game, you're going to have to execute offensively. And I've found over my 21 years here, Aaron, and I've studied this very closely, that when we've lost games, we lose because of inefficiency on offense, either turnovers or we don't shoot the ball well, but usually it's turnovers. Turnovers are the most important factor in determining win or loss in our program, and I think it goes across the board at the high school level. Not true in college. In college, it's field goal percentage, and I think all the analytics bear this out. But at the high school level, you got to take care of that basketball, and you got to get shots up on the glass if you expect to win in important situations. So that's our reason for being a zone defensive program. And again, we've used a variety of zones, and we like the 1-3-1, we like the 1-1-3, the 2-3, like the presses, like the combination defenses. I mean, some of the biggest games we've won here, we've played triangle and two at times in the game. We've played a matchup and won and done some different things to take away the other team's best players.
So I write down notes while you're talking because I love so much. Um, a few things. One, if I was coaching against Will Ray, we would spend several days working on skip passes and pass fakes and skip passes. And I wouldn't add a basketball for a while. We would be using a weighted ball because that's the only way to beat you because you're going to prepare for that. The second thing I would do is I would screen the backside of your zone all day, all day. But I would my focus for my kids would be ball fakes, multiple ball fakes, mix it up, not one ball fake pass, because your teams are going to be very smart. Um, and you better screen that zone like the Great Wall of China,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Uh,
everything you've said is spot on. It's interesting because having our program has a reputation for being a zone defensive program.
yep,
And so people will always ask at a clinic or whatever, they'll say, come here, let me show you what I would run against your 1-3-1 or against your 1-1-3 or 2-3 or whatever
yep.
it might be. And they say, what do you think of this? And I'll say, hey, that's great. That's a good action, and some people usually show me some kind of a back pick or whatever and throw a lob. And I'll tell our players the same thing. I said, look, guys, any one play can work, right? I
Yes,
mean, coaches today, who are you going to coach today? I mean, there's more better coaches today in basketball than there's ever been, in my opinion, in the time that I've been
I
in it.
agree. I
Yeah, I
agree.
mean, you're just not going to outcoach people. But the difference is, can they score enough points in a game to beat us by doing that? And that's why I tell our players, look,
Yep.
they can back screen here, throw a lob, they can do this, that, or the other. But if we allow them to do that for 35 out of 50 possessions of the game to score 60 points, shame on us. I mean,
Mhm.
so the point is, I think what you've hit on, Aaron, is that there are certain skills that have to be part of your preparation to beat a zone, right? And you've hit on something,
100%
right?
coach.
Over that, I think the two-hand overhead pass is a lost art in basketball today. And part of the reason why the zone
100%.
is potent or strong is because most people like to use two-handed chest passes or bounce passes on a perimeter against the zone, or like to dribble a lot against the zone, right? So the two-handed overhead, like you said, the skip pass, maybe some backside screening, ball fakes, shot
Nobody
fakes.
works on it.
Right. Well, see, but that's why I think one of the reasons why the zone, and I think there's a correlation. I think there's a correlation between the advent of the three-point shot and the success of the zone defense, especially at the high school level,
I
right?
agree.
Because people try to shoot us out of the zone. And it happens sometimes that we have to, we always have to adjust if somebody's doing something well. But I can honestly go back over 21 years and I can't remember a game where I've walked into the locker room afterwards and said to myself, gosh, dang it, they beat us because they hit too many 3-point shots, right? Because if we haven't adjusted to that, then it's shame on us. I
Hmm.
mean, we've had games here over the years where some opponents have made 12 and 13 3-pointers against us, and we've still managed to win because they've scored one field goal and went one of two from the free throw line. So they scored one 2-pointer, one free throw, and then try to beat us from the 3-point line again. So you're hitting on all the key points, right? The ball has to go inside, outside, inside, weak side. The ball has to be moved a certain way. And to me, those are the skills that I don't see being practiced. And it ties in very closely with the way players train today, right? So watch how players train. And,
It's so bad, coach.
yeah, I mean, there are some great
It's
trainers.
so bad.
Yeah, and there's some great trainers. And I know I've seen you work when I know you were
Oh yeah,
working.
like the upper, like the NBA elite guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is that you know, well, I don't want to criticize anybody because everybody has their own. I'll never criticize somebody until I've walked in their, until you walk in their shoes. But the point is that, dribbling around cones and, thumb up means pass, thumb down means dribble, thumb to the side means shoot. It's just, in my opinion, again, thank God it's only my opinion, but I just don't think that's going to get it done in terms of the skill base that a player and a team needs in order to beat the press, for example, or to beat the zone. So I think that's the issue why these things are effective at the high school level, especially because the players aren't being developed with the skill package they need to beat the zone or the press.
But you know what they're able to do, Coach Ray? In, out, through the legs, behind the back, step back, travel,
Yeah.
brick.
And here's the thing, and these are kinds of things that we talk to our players about all the time is, we live in a soundbite culture, right?
Okay.
So you turn on ESPN, for example, and you see the highlights of the Lakers versus whoever, and you see LeBron make one of those moves you described.
Yes.
Well, that's one move out of a 48-minute game, and that's not the essence of his game, right? I mean, in the NBA, you better be able to get to the basket in two dribbles. I mean, you
Yep.
talk about going to the Bulls practice. I haven't done it recently, but in the years I went to NBA practice, they're playing one-on-one with a two dribble limit at the NBA from the NBA
Yep.
three-point line. I mean, you got to get to the basket efficiently, got to get to the basket quickly, got to play off 2 feet, all those things. But unfortunately, what the players see is not what's best in terms of their development. In fact, I just told some of our players recently, I said, look, if you really want to watch an NBA game closely and learn something that you can use in your game as a high school player, look at two things. So, number one, look at how these players move without the basketball. Okay,
Hmm.
look at what they're doing to get themselves in position for that shot. And then I said, second, watch how quickly, because we watch the game on television, and it seems like the players are walking in quicksand, right? But watch the shot clock. They're playing with a 24-second clock. Watch how quickly they get into their offense, right? So in
Yep.
other words, that ball's off the board, pitched out or busted out, and they're in the operating area in 4 to 5 to 6 seconds. I said, just think how much better the game is when the ball is moved up and down the floor quickly, right? So those are the
Absolutely.
kinds of things they should be looking at rather than, that like you just mentioned, the behind the back, double spin, whatever, because those moves in high school, in college even, aren't going to get you there because of the defensive rules, right? The defensive rules in the NBA are designed for the individual players to showcase their one-on-one skills. And even there, they don't do it all the time. So anyway, I think you're right on target with what you're saying. And that's where I think good trainers understand that, and they train their players to, for example, read closeouts, to drive closeouts. You know, I think one of the hardest skills for any player, whether it's high school, college, I've never coached beyond college, but is when do I pass? When do I drive? When do I shoot? I mean, most players don't have a really good, clear vision about when those decisions should be made and what leads to those decisions, right? Because that's where the turnovers come in. When players try to create something when it's not there, usually it goes back to the fact that they've misread the situation that they're in. So anyway, those are the things that go into, I think, beating any defense, but especially trying to beat a zone or a press type defense.
You said, you know how everyone says defense wins championships, and you mentioned that. I
Yes,
dis I disagree.
I
And
fundamental, I
hey, hold
fundamentally,
on.
I do
And I
too.
don't think offense wins championships.
Yeah,
You know what wins championships? Grit.
yeah, toughness, sure.
Grit.
Yeah,
I don't care
character,
what
right?
anyone says. Grit covers it all. When I go to the free throw line, I don't poop the bed, right? Like
Can I coach you on that to my players?
I told my son, so we only do skill work. So I don't put them in games. We don't do that stuff. We just do skill work, right? And I told him, so a few rules we have. I said, when I decide and you play in games, I said, you dribble to move the ball or you dribble to attack the basket. If you are not doing one of those two things, you better pass that ball.
Bingo.
And I said, next, if you cannot make a layup, make a mid range, and make a 3-point shot, I don't want to hear what type of player you are because then you're easy to guard.
Yep,
And I
I'm with
said,
you.
lastly, I will destroy you if you get beat off the ball.
Well, you've given him a blueprint for success as a player, that's for sure.
Listen, it's all about being old school, right? I
Yeah,
mean, I don't believe, listen, yes, I evolved with this new age of children,
sure.
but I still bring my discipline, my grit, um, my like I need perfection, right? And if you're not going to be perfect, you better just give me full effort,
Yeah,
right? I can't stand coach. I can't stand when kids walk at a timeout to the free throw line. Um, just I
yeah,
can't.
yeah. Yeah, and listen, those are great standards, and we try to hold our players to the same
Right?
standards. It's funny you mentioned this about, old school. And, people always ask, how much have the players changed over the years? And I honestly don't believe. I believe the same blood that coursed through our veins, Aaron, when we were their age, courses through their veins today.
Yep.
In other words, I think players respond to discipline. They respond to a coach who's professional, knows his stuff. They respond to a coach who cares about them most of all. Um, the differences in the game today is not the game itself or the players; it's the circumstances that surround the game, right? I mean, what's changed dramatically is that, all right? The advent of off-season AAU and club basketball that's changed the game. Um,
Parents.
the parents have changed exactly
Parents.
their expectations, right? I mean,
Yes.
the technology that they have, that players have at their disposal. And today, maybe 30, 40 years ago, you were competing with less outside influences than perhaps you are today.
Mhm.
Again, the circumstances surrounding the game have changed, but the players themselves and the game itself. I mean, people say, don't you think the game has changed dramatically? And I was thinking about this. There have been maybe 5 or 6 major rule changes. Basketball is whatever, 130 something years old.
Yep.
There have been maybe 5 or 6 major rule changes in the history of the game. And most of those happened in the 30s and 40s. I mean, the game of basketball, okay, the 3-point line certainly
Yep.
is significant, right? Because it's changed the way players train, the way coaches design offense and defense and so on. And that's really a significant change. But before that, I mean, there was a time in basketball when they would go to the center circle and have a jump ball after every made basket. They had no midcourt line. There was no 10-second line. I mean, all these rule changes happened in the 30s and 40s. And so the game itself really has not changed. How we play the game has changed slightly, but it's still offense, defense, and conversion. I mean, that's basketball. So, I don't think that the game itself is, I don't even think how the game is taught has changed. Some people like to, use new terminology, talk about constraints, or talk
Yes.
about small-sided games. This is just a change in the lexicon, a change in the terminology, not a change in the way we've done things. I mean, a progressive 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5 buildup of teaching basketball has been around as long as the game, basically. So, yeah, the things that have changed are the circumstances surrounding the games, including like the things we mentioned, and not the players themselves or the game itself.
Parents. Parents.
Well, we're lucky here, I tell you. Sometimes I go to some of our coaching meetings and athletic department meetings with other schools in our conference and so on, and
Oh,
I hear some of these nightmare stories, and I get in my car and I say, "Geez, I don't know, this doesn't." And we've had, part of ours. People say, "Why have had some success at Northridge here over 21 years?" And again, it's been modest success to be sure, but um, it's because we have great kids. We have great kids, hard workers, smart. They buy into the team concept, and we've had great parental support. And I've been very blessed to have that. So some of the things that are happening in other places, fortunately for me and for us, and a lot of it has to do with the mission of our school. And we're small, and parents self-select our school.
yep.
It's a high academic player. Our average ACT in a senior class is 28. I mean, we got some smart
Jeez.
guys that I'm coaching, and so anyway, yeah, we just haven't seen those kinds of influences at a level that it's disruptive. But boy, you still have to discipline. You still have to give them something worthwhile they can sink their teeth into, and then you have to care about your players. They have to know that you have a purpose that's greater than winning.
So when you talk about being at great schools, the guy I'm sitting next to right now, a fellow PE teacher, Matt Fidati, he came from Kenwood. He was the
Wow.
athletic director at Kenwood up until this year. And now he teaches here because he has she's going to be two, a baby, and he can walk here.
Good
Um,
for him.
Coach, when I tell you I'm in heaven, Fidati, are we in heaven? Big time. Big time. We're in Roscoe Village, right by Lane and
Yep.
McCall Prep.
Okay.
Um, you know who else said about the kids not changing?
Who's
Clem
that?
Schmidt.
Well, I believe it.
Yep, he said the same thing. He goes, kids are the same. He goes, it's the parents, expectations and that.
Yeah,
And I said, shoot, my dad's expectation was I better play hard and I better stay out of the doghouse with the coach.
yep,
And if not,
yep. That's it. I mean, and I think there was a time when people saw the intrinsic value of sports
yeah,
participation, even if you weren't going to play or start, right? And so, people, I think grew up with that understanding that look, this sports experience in high school is really second to none. One of my former assistants here in Northridge. He still teaches here, John Kessler, who's a wonderful man and was a great ally of mine here at school and coaching with us. He always said, the only equivalent to being in the military at the high school level for a young man is to be involved in interscholastic sports, right? Because
I agree.
some of the
Yeah.
same lessons. He goes, the benefit of sports over the military is that your life is not a danger, right? At the end of the day, but the same lessons. It's funny. We've had about. We have three seniors this year, Aaron, and I've coached 99 seniors here at Northridge in 21 years. The three seniors this year will be 100, 101, 102. And of those seniors, I've had probably half a dozen have gone into the military. In fact, a guy who started for us last year was our captain, just graduated number two in his boot camp class of 240 Marines, right? And it's amazing when these guys come back from the military experience. And I always ask them to talk to our team. And they say, you know what, guys, there's nothing in the Marines that I learned that I didn't learn playing high school basketball. To be on
Yep.
time, to give your best effort. I mean, you go right down the line with all the
Yep.
character traits. So John Kessler's insight is profound that for a young man who's not military inclined can get the same benefits in terms of character development and forming himself as a man. What does it mean to be an authentic man today, right? And those qualities can be brought out in the interscholastic sports experience if it's done the right way.
Coach, we're gonna wrap up with one thing. I want you to share with everyone one thing. In 200 years, when you move on and you're with the basketball gods, how does Will Ray want to be remembered?
Wow. You know, that's a great question, I guess. Hopefully, people will say, look, in spite of his flaws and his defects, of which there are many, um, he was a good man. He tried to do the right thing. Didn't always do the right thing, made mistakes along the way, but that hope that people see that I genuinely cared about the players that I coached. Sometimes, as a young coach, I didn't probably show that the right way because I was learning
Yep.
and trying to figure out who I was and why I was doing it and so forth. But long after I'm gone, wins and losses are not they don't define who I am. Although I want to be a great professional and I want to do my job really well because it's important to be good at what you do, whatever your profession or your walk of life is, whether you're a dentist, a doctor, a lawyer,
Yep.
teacher, whatever, police officer, fireman, whatever you are. It's important to be the best you can be at it. But what I think supersedes all that is just try to be the best person you can be. And I've worked really hard at that, and I've been blessed. I've had great mentors that have helped me, great spouse that has helped me, and my children. And so hopefully that's what they'll say is that here's a guy, despite of all his flaws and defects, he tried to do the right thing and he had the right intentions at all times.
I think there'll be someone that walks up to the podium and goes, and this fucking guy stayed in a 1-3-1 all the time.
Not always, not always. We sometimes play the 1-1-2,
A zone,
3-3.
a zone. My fault, my fault.
The zone, yeah, the zone, right?
Coach, you've
That's
been
great.
awesome. I really appreciate your time and
My
I
pleasure,
love
Aaron.
I love chatting hoops, man.
Yeah, I know you do, and I was so excited when I heard that you were doing this, and Brian Lucas connected us, and yeah, I love what you're doing. You have a great passion for it, and I know you have high standards, and I think our profession needs men who see things the way you see them. So
Absolutely.
thank you for what you do as well.
All right, my friend, I will see you soon. I am gonna come to practice with my son.
Anytime, always welcome. Always welcome. Don't be surprised if I put you out there in a couple blockout drills so you can teach these guys how
I'm,
to block
I'm
out.
fine. I will get low and I will shove my butt into their stomach. I promise.
Sounds good.
All right, coach. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Aaron. Have a great day.
Bye bye.